Hey guys, it's Kate, and I'm here with a little bit something different today. So I picked up some Master's Touch mixed media paper in a pad at Hobby Lobby, and I wanted to work on something a little bit larger than I normally do. And so I got this 11 by 14 inch or about 28 by 35 centimeters for those of you using the metric system. I got this paper and taped it down, and I wanted to do some intuitive mixed media art. So if you want to settle in, I have this sort of time lapse going of what I was doing, and I had so much fun doing it. So I hope you enjoy watching this or get something out of it. And if you want to see more like this, let me know because I just really enjoyed myself. And so I wanted to do mark making and play with different acrylic paints and just go to town on this poor little piece of paper. So the paper weight is 110 pounds, but it held up like a champ. There was a little bit of ripples by the end from all the moisture, but it honestly held up beautifully through everything I put it through, and I was really happy with it. So I've got my little washi tape taped down the borders to hold everything in place. And I am using a good old-fashioned styrofoam plate for my palette today. I had some kind of lying around that we weren't using and I found them. So I decided to start using them up. So I tried just about everything. I had the China marker, the black paint pen, and now I'm going in with those King Art gel sticks. And I really have to say they're growing on me. They're pretty pigmented, they're water soluble. I have never used the gelatos. These are the first sort of gel sticks I've gotten, and if you haven't used them before, they kind of seem like almost like you're drawing with a stick of lipstick. It's just very creamy and buttery, and you can also use water to break it down. Now, I did do some swatches with it, and when you get it wet the first time, like if you're just putting it on paper, it seems to leave that sort of crayon mark behind even after you wet it. But if you put it on over gesso, it really blends smoothly. So depending on what kind of effect you're after, it could work really well for whatever you want to use it for. So I just put marks all over the place and I covered it up with a nice little layer of gesso. And the gesso just kind of tones that stuff down a little bit so I can go in with some paint and just start playing around with my marks in different areas. And by the time this is done, it's going to have quite a few layers. And I really loved how it turned out because you can kind of see everything poking through. And if you follow along for the whole video, you'll see it kind of morph into several different paintings along the way. So it's kind of neat to see just sort of how these things develop. And it's even interesting as I've watched it while I was editing the video, which if I didn't want it to be a 2-hour video, I had to speed it up. So you're watching at about double time, I think. But I think I had somewhere in the realm of an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes of footage to go through for this. But it was totally worth it, and I really loved the final outcome. And if you're following along, let me know if there were any parts that were favorites of yours. Right now I'm really playing with the warm tones, but if you looked at the thumbnail, it kind of ends up a little bit cooler at the end. And at this point in the painting, I'm really not concentrating where marks are going. I just want to put things down on the paper and see if anything jumps out at me as I go, and I'm really using this as an opportunity to play with supplies. And the paper that I'm using for blotting is actually getting some pretty neat little textures on it too, so I'll be able to use that in a collage for sure. And I also want to say, normally I use white, which, by the way, my white that I'm using today is actually gesso that I'm using for blending. I have titanium white, but I didn't end up breaking it out. But the unbleached titanium that I'm using here, I love it. It just is such a nice color to work with. And it blended so nicely with the yellow. And it's very opaque, as you can see. It covers up a lot. And I did edit this for speed, but there really weren't a lot of cuts. I not till getting pretty close to the end of the painting did I really stop and, you know, consider what I was doing. Here at the beginning, it really was just playing with paints and colors. And I didn't even really stop to let anything dry for a long time. That's actually why I'm blotting with this extra piece of paper. And look at that. I love that red background with the lighter colors on top. That looks really neat. And it wasn't even on purpose. And hopefully it's helpful with the color listings and the little tooltips. I wanted to try to add those to more videos so that if anybody has any questions about what I'm using, it's there. And so I'm adding a little bit of black marks for contrast. And again, not really thinking about where I'm putting anything. I've seen some videos here and there talking about intuitive art and all of that, and I try to practice that because honestly it's hard. It's hard to just let go and not feel like everything you do has to be just right, which for me tends to, not really work in my favor anyway. I'm trying so hard, I end up making more mistakes. And I think that was one of the things that was just kind of a relief with this is I just decided I'm going to sit down and play, and that's that. And there we go with the blotting paper again, and I love the black on it. And actually, so when I move it around to blot different parts of the paper, it leaves other marks on there too from the wet paint. So there's that extra sort of texture kind of showing up. Kind of reminds me of like an old plaster wall or something like that, even though it's just paint. I'm kind of filling in now with that, I think that rose color where I had put those original sort of scalloped edge marks. And I wanted to bring some of those back out. And so every time I add a bunch of new marks, I go back through and put some different colors down, and I'm just mixing as I go so I have some variation in my shades, and I'm just sort of knocking things back, bringing out concentration. I'm not thinking yet really about composition, but if something looks too busy, I'll cover it up a little bit, or if I want to draw attention to something, I'll go around it and kind of highlight it with some contrast. And as I'm painting, my eyes just kind of scanning around the paper, looking for my next opportunity. And I even mixed some brown in here to neutralize that pink a little bit. And I really like that color too. It's just so bright and airy. Honestly, I could have stopped probably a couple of times during this as I was looking at my footage. I kept thinking, "Oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's pretty," and I covered it up later. But I learned a lot doing this, and I actually did another one the very next day, and I'll be posting that one too. It's a little bit different, but I really loved them both. So I want to definitely do more of these, if you don't mind the longer form, I guess. Because I wanted to show the whole process. So I think the best option was just to kind of speed up the video a little bit. And now I'm going in with some more cooler tones. I have all the reds and oranges and peaches, and now I'm going in with some nice cool blues, yellows, and greens. And it just changes the whole look. One thing I noticed doing this process is that the different layers and different colors and mixing on the plate, it really adds a lot of depth and complexity, especially when you're looking up close at the finished piece, which I do zoom in and show some detail at the end of this video. But it's kind of amazing how many of the details from way back in the beginning layers you can still see peeking through at the end, and it looks really neat, and there's so much to look at. And I think that is something that maybe has been missing a little bit in my other projects. They've been more simple, and which I like that too, but this just brings a lot of that depth that I think I should introduce more of in the different projects that I do. And I'm just kind of rolling my brush around, having fun. I got that brush. Let me see what kind it is. I'm going to grab it in my tray. It's a Simply Simmons, and I can't remember if I bought it at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. It's their level 1 brush. It's like the beginner brush. And I have some nicer brushes too, but this one, I really love it because the bristles at the end are kind of rough and firm, and it just feels so nice to paint with and leaves this kind of, I don't know, scratchy texture, which I really like. And maybe that's because it's a cheaper brush. I don't know, but I really like it. The one I'm using there is a number 4 round. I also have a smaller one, and it is the number 1 round of the same brand name. And it's actually sold for oil painting, but I don't paint oil, so I'm using it for acrylics. And they're starting to be pretty beat up, but I like that. It shows that I'm getting mileage on my brushes, so that's good. I scrub that paper and show it who's boss. I'd be really interested to know what kinds of things that you like to make. If you paint, because I do different types of videos on my channel, mostly because so many different things are interesting to me, and I have these supplies that I want to use and everything, but I'm really interested in the types of things that you like to make. Do you do both watercolor and acrylic and other mediums like I do? Are any of you oil painters? Because oil painting truly intimidates me with all of the different things that you have to have, and the, oh gosh, I don't even know, turpentine, I guess, and all the other things. It just seems like a lot. I don't even know how I would make it work, but obviously people do, so I might be making too much of a thing out of it. But oil painting is just sort of that mystery to me. But I like acrylics, and I think, technology's come a long way where you can get a lot of oil look from acrylics with the different heavy body paints and fluids and different mediums you can use. So I think art has come a long way since the original oil painting days, but there's something to be said about a good oil painting. It's special. And I mixed together kind of this minty green, and I'm going over some of the areas. And I'm starting to think more about composition as I go further. So I don't want it to end up being this busy, and I want to definitely make, you know, my focal points, whatever they end up being, really come out from the page. And that is going to be done by toning down some areas and highlighting others. And I want, the different colors and values to show through, but I want to also draw attention to the places where I want attention to go, if that makes sense. So I'm just kind of going through, and the things that are just sort of reaching out to me on a personal level as I'm looking at it, I'm just sort of maintaining those on the page and preserving them and going around them with my marks. And on this one, I really liked the different circles that I had and the placement, so I'll be working with those for the rest of the painting. And if you're watching, I wonder what has drawn your eye. I really love hearing from you guys. So if you want to leave a comment, I love to hear feedback and what your thoughts are. Are you a beginner? Are you an old painting pro? Do you just watch for relaxation? There might even be some watchers who don't paint at all. But if you don't, you really should, because it's so fun to do. And it truly is therapeutic. See, this was one of the times when I was first watching and I was thinking, oh, I really like how that looked. I could have stopped there. But I just wasn't done yet. So I'm going in with that rose color and adding some of that warmth back in. And I'm just kind of going in between warm and cool and adding little pops of this and that. And I also want to start introducing some more neutrals. So as I go forward, you'll see me start introducing a little bit more gray and kind of darkening up some areas to add contrast, because right now the painting is kind of just one value. And so I'm going to add some pops of stronger color, some darks, some more lights, and some white. And here I am, I'm deciding the circles I like and just bringing those out with some more paint. And now I'm kind of using the same colors to make this really nice gray with everything. And that's one neat thing about mixing your own colors. If you have kind of a limited palette, but you have something along the lines of the primaries, plus, like a black, brown, and white, or just even a black and white, you can make some really nice neutrals, and they'll always go because you're using the same colors that you have elsewhere in the painting. So because I've been painting with those colors all along, that gray color just really blends nicely with all of them. And I'm even adjusting the values of my gray, lightening it up and darkening it with my white gesso that I've got on the plate, adding in more rose here and there or more blue, and just kind of switching things up. One thing I am trying to do though is when I do make one, I want to put it in more than just one area of the painting, so I pick a couple of spots and drop it in. And I like it when you have different colors with similar values kind of next to each other, because when they blend together, it's almost like a seamless blend. And I really like that. But you can also use it strategically and put contrasting colors together to highlight something. And I'm just mixing up some dark gray here, and I add the black little by little because a little bit goes a long way. I don't want black necessarily, just a darker color than what I have on the page already. I'll save the plain black for later on when I'm doing the finishing touches. But I'm definitely introducing some more darkness here. And see that texture that the brush uses? That one is the smaller one. That is that #1 round of the same brand. That's Simply Simmons. And if you ever use that brush, let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Or if there are any other brands that you would highly recommend, because I'm always liking to try new brushes. I have this little caddy on my table that has just lots of different brushes in it. I have kind of a problem, I think. The funny thing is I gravitate to the same handful all the time. So I have brushes that they're almost like brand new. But I love to try them. They're just so much fun. Okay. I really loved that yellow, and it's pretty transparent, so I'm mixing it with a little bit of the white that I have on my plate palette and just really going in with those lighter colors now. So I have added some of the darker gray. Now I'm going in with some lights, and I'm kind of making it almost like, well, what's the opposite of shadow? Highlight? So I'm going in to bring out those circles out even more. It's starting to almost remind me of some sort of whimsical under the sea painting with lots of different colored bubbles just flying around. Or floating around, I guess you could say. And I'm just putting it into some sort of strategic locations where I want to draw focus. And if any of the areas look too dark, I'm adding it there to break it up a bit and add some more contrast. And as you probably, well, you maybe noticed, I barely clean my brushes this whole time. It's not very often. I think I rinsed it, when I had the really dark colors on there and moved to white. But other than that, I just kind of kept blending and going. I think having the white just adds so much and it brings out the detail. And I'm putting it next to a lot of that darker gray I have to increase that contrast even more. And I also noticed that that bubble or circle in the bottom right needs a little TLC. But God, I love that brush. The scratchy, firm, dry brush. Look at that blend. It's something. I pretty much did this whole painting with a couple of brushes. And they worked like a charm. I'm getting some more of that rose to put in there. And add some more pops of that color. Kind of making a bit of a dusty pink and adding some more marks back in. And I want a little bit of differentiation in the colors, so I do a couple of different mixes with that rose just to give it some variety. And I'm even going back over some of my old marks. Well, old as in I put them down a whole minute ago. But you know what I mean, right? And it was so relaxing to do. And I remember thinking, I can't wait to take up this tape and see how it looks because the edge just gets so crisp and clean when you lift the tape. So I made sure to leave that part in so you could enjoy it with me too. Because I think the tape coming up might be one of the best parts. It's really satisfying. So, what do you think so far? I hope you're enjoying it, especially as we start getting into the home stretch of this painting. And I'm so glad that if you're watching that you spent time with me today. And I really hope you enjoy these videos. I so enjoy making the videos, and I was looking back at my catalog and just seeing, the different changes that have happened just over the past few months on this channel. And I'm just so grateful to kind of be building a little bit of a community on here. And I love all the comments and feedback I get from people. And I'm really grateful that you spend your time with me because, time is in short supply. And it means a lot. So thank you so much for watching and reaching out. And hopefully, if you come to my channel for inspiration or just ideas on making your own projects, that you find them useful or helpful. Oh, there's the tape. Look at that crisp line. Oh, that's great. So once I finish getting this up, in the midst of my thank yous for coming, I do appreciate you watching, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I will do some close-ups on this before ending the video so you can see the texture and different marks. That's harder to see when it's farther away, but I just love the depth. And you can see some of the original marks and some of the later marks and the different layers. It's just so much fun to do, just to have fun and let go. And I hope you enjoyed this today. And until next time, well, keep creating, or think about creating, or just be creative, or take out your supplies for a second. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.